Dragonflight's launch date has been officially announced, and we have some beta keys to give away over here at GGWow. Details for that are down in the description below, so go look down there to find the ways that you can enter to win one of those. If you are one of the lucky winners, or if you're just interested in what's going on in Dragonflight, some of our players here at Golden Guardians have some starting points to check out once you get there.
This is our new talent tree system coming from the 3 option per row. We have one side for our class-specific options, and we have one side for our spec tree. This also includes a bunch of baseline abilities that we've had before, like AMS, Chains of Ice, Mind Freeze, Vamp Blood, Blood Boil, etc. However, this does not mean we have to drop any of these options. We don't really lose any of our baseline abilities, aside from some, of course, like Sacrificial Pack. And that's because you have to reach a specific amount of points before you get to the bottom. So you could have some options here, like instead of taking Control Undead, you could go for Sacrificial Pact. The main benefit of this new talent tree system so far is that we won't have to acquire our powers throughout the expansion. Unlike before where you had to acquire your Covenant abilities and your Conduits, your artifact power, Azerite traits, etc. You have most of what you already want when you hit max level in Dragonflight. There are also a lot more choices and additions to most classes. You've got situational stuff like interrupts on some classes. Guardian Druid, for example, you would have to spec into Skull Bash, which might seem bad, but you sometimes don't need Skull Bash. Like in Raid, for example, you can always opt out of dropping Skull Bash and going for a more throughput option. There are also some classes that gain some really cool stuff. Blood Decay, for example, because Empower Rune Weapon is now on the class tree, you can go for Empower Rune Weapon as a Blood or Unholy Decay. You can have Abomination baseline. You've got Demon Hunters here with Darkness. That means as a Vengeance Demon Hunter, you can now go for Darkness, Chaos Nova, Blur. Those are some really cool options, and the Hunt is now baseline. You've also got Havoc Demon Hunters who can spec into Silent Sigil or Sigils of Misery. So that's going to be really cool. And we even have classes like Protection Warrior who can now get a bunch of different legendary effects like Thunderlord, The Wall, Seismic Reverberation. Yeah, so you can just get like a bunch of really OP things on Pro Warrior. And that is what I'm looking forward to most in this new expansion with the new talent tree. It's going to be pretty cool for sure.
Hello friends, this is Growl. One of the things that I'm most excited for is dragon riding. It's a new style of mount riding that can be used anywhere in the new expansion zone. You earn it very quickly in the campaign, so it can be used not just for transportation, but even questing and leveling. Dragon riding is a much more hands-on experience than normal mount riding. It uses downwards momentum in a way where you build up speed and energy, then you can use that energy to gain vertical height. It might feel a little strange at first, but once you get used to it, while unlocking the talents, it starts to feel very, very smooth. The new control style isn't the main draw, however. The real cool part is that you can reach speeds almost 3 times as fast as a normal mount. This makes traversing the Dragon Isles much faster, especially when normally flying isn't even unlocked at the start of an expansion. There is quite a bit of depth to the system, but it isn't player power related, so you can build up your dragon at your own speed without having to worry about other endgame stuff. There are glyphs hidden throughout the Dragon Isles, usually near the tops of the tallest mountains and structures. You can collect these glyphs to improve your dragon's flying ability. Options such as faster energy regeneration, or even bonus move speed after gathering resources like herbs. There are also dragon racing minigames spread throughout the Dragon Isles, with achievements and other rewards for completing the tracks in a set amount of time. Lastly, there's a large amount of customization you can make to your mount. Throughout the open world, dungeons, raids, and nearly everywhere else, you unlock customization options for your dragon. This might be a different style of horn, a type of armor, or scales, and even different eye color options. Just visit the Dragon Transmog Beacon in Valdrakken to see what options you have unlocked. I think this is going to be one of the most well-received new additions to the game since Mythic Plus, and I for one can't wait to go from laps around Dalaran to laps around, well, the entire map.
Hey guys, this is Yoda. I'm going to be talking about the dungeons we have available on the Dragonflight beta. Right now we have all 8 dungeons. We have Algathar Academy, Brackenhide Hollow, Halls of Infusion, Maltheris, Ruby Life Pools, the Azure Vault, Noku Defensive, and Uldaman Legacy of Tyr. Only 4 of these will be in Season 1 Mythic Plus. So we have Algathar Academy, which is like a magical dragon school. At the beginning you pick your Dragonflight, and it'll give you a different buff based on which one it is, either 5% haste, healing received, crit, or verse. Ruby Life Pools is going to be a super fast dungeon. There's only 3 bosses, and there's like not much traction between each boss. You just do a pull and then do the boss over and over again, I think, if you're speedrunning. It'll be super quick, probably the best dungeon of the expansion if I had to guess. The Azure Vault is like a magical dragon artifact vault. Basically you visit and you go from platform to platform, fighting some dragons or whatever else is trapped there. Similar to Spires of Ascension from Shadowlands, except there's no mini bosses, and instead of like hopping on an angel and flying, you just click a book and it teleports you. The Noku Defensive is a relatively unique dungeon. I don't think I've ever seen anything like it. It includes a new mechanic called dragon riding. So basically you start in an area, then you get on your dragon and you ride to the next area, kill all the boss's lieutenants, spawn the boss, kill the boss, and then repeat that 3 times. Then you fly to the last area and you fight the last boss, basically. It's gonna be super cool if you like dragon riding. If you wipe though, you're gonna have to dragon ride back, so that is something. Once Mythic Plus is out, coming back, we have some old favorites from Legion, Court of Stars, and Hall of Valor, which I'm sure everyone is excited about. Shadow Moon Burial Grounds from Warlords of Draenor, and Temple of the Jade Serpent from MOP. So look forward to it. Thank you.
Okay, so we're going to be looking at UI and quality of life updates next, which is what I'm going to be covering. So basically how I would describe this is the UI has had a decent overhaul just as a general rule. And the first thing you may notice is the fact that my new player frame looks a little bit different. In addition to that, there's a lot of cool and different stuff. So whenever you go and click here, you can go into edit mode. And from edit mode, you actually see a lot of these blue bars and you're able to move and customize like positions on a lot of the UI in ways that you weren't able to before. The party frames are very similar to what we had last expansion or in previous expansions, and so this is where I would kind of give some points off. They're not fully customizable with like whitelist or blacklist of debuffs, but overall the party frames are still fairly solid. I think the individual player frame is substantially better. The ability to be able to customize and move action bars allows you to create things such as general heads-up display interfaces in a way that you weren't able to previously, with like basically just putting your abilities there and utilizing it as like a cooldown hub in a specific way. In addition to that, there's ways that you can import and export your UI to be able to share it with other people. That's super valuable, especially if you're going to be playing on multiple computers. On top of that, there is ways of importing and exporting talents and maintaining multiple talent loadouts, which I think will be pretty prominent for something like Mythic Plus. In addition to that, if you just want to run a bunch of different talent loadouts, you literally just like select I'm just going to select this here, and then you get like this changing talents window that's in the middle of your screen. This is something that it's also super cool. In addition to that, there is the settings menu got a bit of an update, but basically there's like a press and hold while casting feature. And so for Moonkin specifically, if I press and hold Wrath a bunch, like if I'm spamming Wrath, it will queue it up immediately after. Alternatively, there's also the ability whenever you have like channeled spells for something like Evoker, where they have the charge feature on some of their abilities, you press and hold it, and then whenever it's done casting, you can release, and that ends up casting it at that point as well. Beyond that, there's quick keybinds. We kind of saw that a little bit in edit mode. How this works is you click on the action bar, and then you click quick keybind mode, and you're able to kind of assign abilities here. Like you see here, I have this bound to shift to, and so I just like click through here and bind them. It's really fast for being able to set up characters. There's some things that I would still like to see changed, particularly stuff regarding unit frames and target frame. The ability to be able to like whitelist and blacklist debuffs will be nice, but overall this is getting closer to something like LVUI, just as a general rule with how customizable it is. I would still give LVUI a slight edge, but just as a stock default UI situation, this has definitely come a long way.
So, diving into the Drakthir Evoker class a bit, one thing that's very unique is that Drakthir and Evoker have to be a combo together, right? Like, you can't play a Panda Evoker, you can't play a Drakthir Mage, you have to be specifically a Drakthir Evoker, so it's something that's pretty new to the game in general. And the coolest thing about Evoker to me, one of the coolest things is it is actually impressive how much options of customizing you have, right? You have 6 categories to customize, then you also have your human form, which is another category. For example, if you go to Orc to customize, you have 3 categories. The new class, yeah, just look how much customization there are, right? You can go to the gym, you can make that, you can change, the color of your character, you can be blue. There's so many things you can do. Like if you sit down and just mess with all this customization, you will look so much different than someone else because there's so much you can do. Getting into the actual spec itself, Devastation is the DPS spec, which is a ranged spec, kinda. And there's pretty much two different builds going on here. There's the red side of the tree and there's the blue side of the tree. Now, the red side is generally built towards AoE. There's a lot of abilities that, support hitting all targets. Like, for example, Firestorm is a whole ability that you get on the red side. And a lot of these talents just kind of support, Fire Breath, which is like, your big frontal AoE ability, look like this, right? Well, the red build is very AoE based. And then you have the blue build, which looks like a more single target, maybe cleave 2 to 3 targets build. So there's a lot of different ways you can kind of customize just one spec, right? The second spec that Evokers get is Preservation, which is, their healing spec. So that makes them a hybrid like Druids and Shamans, right? And just taking a quick glance at, these abilities, there's some really cool spells in here. Like Emerald Communion, 3-minute cooldown. If you're the tooltip, it pretty much sounds like Tranquility, which really fucking cool. And you have Rewind, which is a raid-wide alter time. As a mage myself, I think this is really cool. It's a 4-minute cooldown, so this is like their big cooldowns right here, right? Then you have this as well, which is causes your 3 helpful spells to be stored, and then you can release it later. It's pretty much like Cloudburst Totem. So at first glance, I think that a lot of their abilities are really cool looking. One thing that we've noticed in the beta is that the majority of their abilities are 25-yard range compared to like the normal 40-yard range abilities that, most ranged classes have. So it kind of makes them like a melee range hybrid, kind of like Survival Hunter in a way. So we'll see how that plays out. I don't think it'll be too much of a problem. One thing that's really cool about Evoker, side note, is that they can glide almost like a Demon Hunter. So I think it's cool that another class can kind of bring that to the table. But, regardless, there's a lot to test, so let's make sure we get out there, right?
The most important thing that you guys can do on beta is to give feedback. Anytime that you're on beta and you do anything, there is a bug reporter that you can use to basically submit any bugs for any encounters that you find any issues with. Encounters, abilities, anything at all that you see as being problematic, you should definitely report the bugs. In terms of feedback, whether you want to give feedback on the revamped talent trees or dungeons or anything at all, what you want to do for feedback is use the World of Warcraft official forums. These are the WoW forums, and in it, you specifically have Dragonflight beta test under in development. So you can find it right here. So first I'll take you forums, and then there's in development, and then Dragonflight beta test. So you also have Dragonflight pre-patch PTR, which you can give feedback on, and then obviously other things. But right now we'll just focus on Dragonflight beta. Under Dragonflight beta, if you're interested in giving feedback on talents, you will see each one of these. Each class has a feedback and then the class that it's referring to. Obviously, mine is alerted for Paladins. If you click on that, you can actually see a huge amount of feedback that has been given to the developers for that spec specifically, or that class. It's highly recommended. You'll see I have a couple posts on here just talking about all the different things that I think could be improved in the talent trees and what I see as potential issues. And it's really important that you use these forums and these tools to give feedback in any way that you can, because the devs this time around in Dragonflight have been extremely responsive and very, very receptive to feedback, which has been wonderful. So take advantage of that and make sure that you give the devs all the information that you think they need in order to make the class as good as possible. So yeah, that pretty much sums up feedback. Make sure that you're, reporting any bugs and giving any feedback for beta so that we get the best possible version of Dragonflight that we can have.
So there you go, 6 things to do in Dragonflight, and remember to click the link below to enter a raffle to get yourself a beta key. Good luck to everybody.